I've been sort of the last couple of hours. Something's messed up my stomach quite badly, so it seems to have settled for the moment. But it's possible I may have to disappear if it flares up again. So apologies in advance for that.
Fair enough, Ski. Well, if that happens,
It's
fair enough.
Yeah.
But
It's
you know,
a damn
porridge.
Triffid rebellion you're organising.
Yeah.
Porridge. I can recommend porridge.
Haven't got any
neutralising
porridge
agent.
to unfortunately. Yeah. I won't go into the details of what it's been like, but let's just say I'm not eating at the moment, just sipping water.
Okay. And
It's
yes,
like a
Webby...
waterfall coming out of my bum.
And yes,
Thank you for
Webby,
that.
you are
Perfect on the stream right there.
starting us off on the note we need to be started off on, apparently.
This is the way Matt goes, hey, surprise, I was already streaming. We're like,
As it
oh.
happens, yes! So, yeah, great. Luckily, you can't see my face yet. Hang on.
It seems some of us are streaming more than others.
Dumb,
Well,
dumb,
quite.
dumb.
Well, yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome
God,
once
sorry,
again.
that took. Oh god, that took me far too long to get. Oh.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the comedy episodes of Star Trek Adventures. I say comedy episodes, they're all comedy episodes here. Except the ones that aren't.
You
Anywho,
mean we're
welcome
not
to the
based off
further
Lower
adventures
Decks?
of the USS Navis. Excuse me while I just monkey a little bit with my background. Yeah, welcome to the adventures of the USS Navis again. They didn't
Hey, I
manage to
just
blow
saw
up
by
the
stream.
universe.
By stream sniping, if you open the conference door, guess who's standing there again? Shut up, Latude.
Good old Latude, the
I can see you.
underappreciated misanthropic transporter chief.
I could see you standing in here, Latude.
So, yes, brand new episode today. So, unlike most Star Trek type serialized episodes, a certain amount of knowledge of what's gone on before does help, but is not entirely necessary. So, we can just ignore that Latude exists right now. Or not.
So in other words, it's just a cupboard you keep the Latude figure in. Okay.
We just keep Latude in the conference room. He's not even allowed in the transporter room anymore.
Nice. Anywho's a maboo, which is totally a word, I assure you. Already Nova is dipping in and up around. She can't keep herself still. She's been waiting so long, especially since last week we had a bit of a break, so there wasn't any Star Trek last week. So everybody's got withdrawal symptoms. And that's not at all because I've just been re-watching season 2 of Star Trek Picard again recently.
I'm
Anyway.
still waiting for the whole season to be ready. Only 3 episodes so far.
Yes, and if I had sense, I would do that too. However, evidence to the contrary suggests I am not.
The season finale of this season of Discovery, very
been.
worth watching.
Yes.
Yeah, but Discovery.
No, seriously, it is the most Star Trek that Star Trek has ever been for like one episode.
Couple of things were a bit, really? But, yeah,
Michael
overall...
Burnham, captain of Discovery, that's number one.
Oh
but
yeah,
anyway.
But she's been captain since episode 1 of season 1, right?
Right? Right?
At least it looked like it from the plots.
Hang on, wait a minute. Yeet.
Any discussion about Star Trek Discovery means that Commander Andrews leaves the bridge. Anyhow.
All worrying that she's gone to see Latude.
She's just letting him know that she's watching him. Always watching. And of course, Vibers is now off to engineering to stroke the warp core. We
Yes. Stroke.
My precious.
I am not going to do a Golem impression. Gollum impression. Much as I may want to. Anyhows, anything anybody wants to get announced or get done before we actually officially start? As an example, I remember Gareth mentioning you were potentially looking at using the reputation you gained from the end of the last episode to perhaps buy an award.
Well, that moss has to be good for something, other than traumatizing the rest of the crew with moss-related jokes.
Someone's message, by the way, in the chat saying you're coming through quietly on the stream, Matt.
Yes, I am coming through quietly because I am trying my level best to balance the amount of background hiss my mic is letting in. I will endeavour to give it a bit of a boost. Hopefully that's better. Either that, or I just thought everybody's fed up on my voice by now, so I may as well quiet myself down.
Can't say that about the DM.
I'm self-effacing. Something I need to get over. Anyway,
DM's copyrighted by Dungeons and Dragons.
that's why I'm the GM.
Yeah.
That's why I'm the GM. Anywho's, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Gareth, are you thinking of actually going through with it?
Honestly, yes. I really think it would suit the character to go for it.
Awesome. So, what was it? Was the Cochrane Medal of Excellence you were
The
looking
Cochrane and Medal of Excellence for Starfleet officers and cadets who perform outstanding feats in the fields of science and engineering. I think I'm going to go for science here. I'm not sure even the loosest terms of moss is going to count as engineering.
Benefits. Select a single focus the character possesses that relates to the scientific or engineering field for which they earned the award. Once per mission, when you spend a point of determination on a task that involves that focus, you receive 2 of the benefits of spending a point of determination instead of 1.
Ooh.
Booyah.
Well, obviously it's going to be botany.
Well, obviously.
And it works so well because, Star Trek, if there's one thing Star Trek's known for, it's all the plants that are constantly in every scene.
On the USS Navis, that becomes the case.
Well, it is now, but that's only because I'm doing that.
So there we are. I have
Yay.
moved the award over to your list of talents. That has a cost of 3 reputation. So you can either do it yourself, move your reputation track down to 10 again.
Down to 10.
Anybody
Yay.
else want to spend their reputation on an award?
Nope, I'm saving mine. For when Commander Lenoris has an unfortunate accident.
Yes, accident.
Accident.
The fact that it's planned and circled on the calendar means nothing.
Commander Lenoris, space expedition, solo, spacesuit optional.
The ironic thing is that's why he hates LeChud, because every time he tries doing that, LeChud keeps on using his position at the teleporter to transport the whoever back to the bridge.
Hey, get off my seat.
Thought it was a bundle.
Okie dokie. Anybody else got anything else they want to do first? Nope. Okie dokes. So let's dive right in. Today's episode is That Which Is Unknown. Okay, so we shall start off with Captain's Log, Stardate 48483.2. I have just received new orders from fleet operations on Earth, and so it falls to me to announce our new orders to the rest of the crew. Captain Adriana Ducasse comes out of her ready room. Thank you for the awesome timing on that door hiss. At which point she moves over to she sits down in the command chair and goes, Helm, what am I saying? Helm, take us out of here. No, communications, open a shipwide transmission, please. which point. All hands, this is the captain. We have just received new orders from Fleet Ops. We have a new posting. From now on until the foreseeable future, the Navis is going to be posted at Starbase 364, Narendra Station, on the edge of the Shackleton Expanse. Apparently, our recent exploits in and near the Expanse have caught Starfleet's attention. And so we've been requested to be part of the 20th Fleet under Admiral April Hebert. So, we shall be moving into the station as our base of operations. Make sure everybody has got their belongings packed and ready to be moved into the station when we arrive in 3 hours. Those of you who wish to have relatives, family and the like move into the station with you, have submission requests ready for handing over to the dockmaster as soon as we arrive. Station quarters have already been assigned for individual crew members, so any juggling that needs to happen will need to happen after the fact. We'll be reporting for our... Matt's forgotten the word. What's the actual word they use for when they...
Assignment?
Actually,
Posting?
there's a word. I don't want to say indoctrination, because that's not it. That's when you get introduced to it.
Briefing.
It is a briefing, but there's another word for it, and I've completely forgotten it.
Induction.
Like
Induction
ordination.
will do.
Yeah.
Yeah, induction will do. The senior staff will be reporting for induction as soon as we are on board the station. Everybody else will be assigned quarters and will be asked to move your belongings in. Any questions, please submit them to your department heads or the XO. Thank
Is there
you
a
all.
standard role for just knowing stuff about, like just common knowledge?
Is there anything in particular that you're wanting to ask about?
Just stuff about Narendra Station, Starbase 664.
Okay.
Yeah,
You can access that on any Federation database.
Yeah, because it's an interesting place.
It is an interesting place.
Yeah. Andrews would also ask the question when it's just the senior bridge crew and no longer communication is in. If we're being assigned to the Vidian engine just suddenly shot up then. If we're being suddenly assigned to the 20th Fleet, does that mean that relations with the Romulans are getting frosty?
Not at all. The 20th Fleet is now under the command of April Hebert, and specifically three memberships of the 20th Fleet are being assigned to Narendra Station. Any other questions?
Are all the senior staff going to be in the same area? I'm just wondering how close I'm going to be to the good doctor.
Hi, neighbour!
You heard about Voss?
Are you concerned about your health?
Shared conservatory, you say?
Mental health.
Shared conservatory.
Well, of course, as the senior staff aboard the ship, you will get slightly better placed quarters than the regular crew members. But if you really want to protest or appeal your placement, there, you can always put in a request.
I'm quite happy to have a very Spartan room to allow someone to have the privilege of being in the officers' quarters with Dr. Moss.
I think
some random incidents.
I think you'll find that's the award-winning Dr. Moss.
Captain, who actually officiated the medal? Just out of interest at Starfleet, someone at Starfleet Command was obviously so intrigued with Moss that to have awarded the medal. Can we find out who that was, please?
I will do my level best, Commander. But considering our last effort was at Footfall, it It was mostly the Doctor's medical capabilities that were called upon. However, he has also been making regular contributions to Starfleet science and medical.
To be honest, the interesting properties of the energy-consuming moss, along with the physiological and chemical effects of the water
Oh
that
my
were
god,
altered
he
by the
started
anomaly.
again!
I'm sorry, I thought you were interested the way you kept on talking about it. I didn't want to deny you if you were that interested in hearing about it.
Captain, permission to attend to a security breach on Deck 7.
Denied.
So are we? What's the planned rotation in terms of how much time people spend on the ship and how much time people spend on the station?
When we're not assigned a mission, we'll be officially on ready status, but essentially shore leave. But everybody has to be ready to go at a moment's notice according to assignment.
So
Captain,
is
will
it
any of the
Sorry. Is that a rotating skeleton crew, or just keeping the ship operational and then
It
rotating
will
through?
be
Or...
half of a skeleton crew and half of the dockmaster's crew will be regularly seeing to the ship. Jan.
So, sorry, Captain. Will some of the ships in the fleet be kept in complete readiness during this time?
As far as I'm made aware. Bearing in mind there will be only 2 other ships besides ourselves.
Since we're heading back towards the Shackleton Expanse, is there any news on the planet Godden?
On the planet what, sorry?
The planet
Football.
life form that we met last time.
That's now in the hands of the Starfleet Diplomatic Corps and the Research and Development and Science divisions. But last I heard, they were very impressed with its ability to utilize its own energy to essentially replicate matter. The planet appears to be basically one big conscious replicator.
If
Question.
this... Come on.
Sean,
Sorry,
first.
I was just going to have a follow-up question. Can I turn our replicator sentient?
Absolutely not. Natala.
If we are stationing 3 ships, is there going to be an increased or a similar sized fleet, presumably from the Klingon Defense Force?
That I
If we're
am not so
maintaining
sure.
a border.
That's going to be an interesting one that we'll have to ask General Kargan himself when we get there. Because unless...
My understanding is that almost everything in that area has to be joint operations.
Indeed. We'll discuss that more when we get closer to the station.
Yes, doesn't the station have a certain level of autonomy for Federation coordination due to its distance from the core worlds?
Everything will be pretty much the purview of Admiral Hebert, yes. Any other questions?
I just want to sort of call up a service record of Admiral Hebert to see what kind of postings the Admiral has had. Is it mostly scientific, military?
Let me grab April Hebert's. Let's see. Admiral Hebert, where you at, doll? Excuse me while I scroll and scroll and scroll.
It's a long record.
What am I looking for? So this is the command staff of... Right, there we are. Let's see. Admiral April Hebert crafted a remarkable 30-year career as a bold and fearless captain. Rewarded for her efforts with an admiral's flag in command of the 20th Fleet. apparently has very good relations with the Klingons. So, yeah, she's.
I think that probably answers your question. If the Klingons like her, and she's considered bold.
She's a trusted diplomat. She's also an outstanding leader. She's a tactician, and she's a xenoanthropologist.
Yay! Team xenoanthropologist.
Oh god, Natala, please don't go down that route, please.
Does the team science
It's good to have. It's good to have hobbies in common with your superiors. It generally greases the wheels.
See another commendation coming.
Hello, my own command. Your own science vessel to call your own. Just imagine. And then we remember that science vessels are usually O-berth class. Otherwise known as toons in space.
It's fine. The war canoe is a really nice ship. And
It's not
it
even
is
a war
one of the
canoe.
best-
Well, it's the similar amount out of date.
War canoe suggests it's good at the first bit. War. It's
No,
really
it's
not.
just
What is it good for?
The 14th century.
Meanwhile, in engineering, Vibbers is giving a very passionate speech to his crew to his engineering team about how this is my warp core. Those station bastards aren't touching it, so you lot are on duty for your normal shifts, regardless of what you're being told from the higher ups.
Is this the point where Commander Vibers points out the little placard that he's stuck on the warp core? Touch it and I cut you.
There's that placard, and there's the fact that he's got little lines on all of the dials of where exactly they should be pointing to. Because
Bit like
he's
a
tuned
whistle
this
for
to
that one.
perfection.
Jesus. We're going to pull into space dock and people are going to look at the warp core and go, what the hell is this ancient technology with dials? I'm so glad I don't go down into engineering.
It's not ancient technology, it's custom.
It's retro.
Yeah, there's a difference between retro. There's a difference between a retrofit and a
Just plain
retrofit.
I was
And
going
it's
back
custom
for the
extracted.
analogy.
Yeah.
It's not actually the Captain What's-His-Face ancient tech approach. It is literally, there are blue marks on LDL cars displays showing exact positions of where things should be, just slightly off standard because it works better on this hardware.
I've just now imagined
Just
Commander
just
Vibers has
slightly
gone
red.
around the consoles with a permanent marker.
I was imagining Vibers literally
No
just
comment?
post-it note next to the solid fuel chute.
Oh, and whoever it is who's been resubmitting the doctor's reports repeatedly, can you please stop?
Nova!
I'd like to point out that science vessels of this era, there's still the Miranda class is technically still in service as well.
So's the Oberth. They're both
Yeah.
in service. They don't die. They're like Soviet cars. They'll keep,
There were
they'll
just
keep
so
running
many of them
even
in the
after the
original-
wheels fall off.
In the original factory run of the Oberth and the Miranda, they just made so many too many, they couldn't crew them for 200 years later.
They just sort of stuck them in storage, mothballed for years.
It's only a very small percentage of them that explode.
They just happen to show you that small percentage in all the episodes and feature films.
95% of science is really boring and nothing happens, so
But why bother armoring them?
yeah.
They just have a shield of boring around them.
That's why the bottom and the top are disconnected. It's so that the boring can't affect the crew on watch.
the Romulans just turn up and go, "Oh, that's boring." Just fly off.
Why even bother?
Because what kind of engine is this? They don't even have a singularity shoved haphazardly in the middle of it.
They've painted it in
Well,
such drab colours.
We
Look at that
did have
interior
one
design.
Oberth captured by a collector. Something about he's never seen such a good antique in working condition. He was really miffed when we told him it was still in service.
They can run on
Okey-dokey.
5 crew. Jesus.
Yeah, the whole rest is in the bottom section, and
Yeah.
that's civilian. You leave them be, they're weird.
Yes, but it's 5 scientists.
No, that's the scientists in the bottom section. You don't talk to them. It's the 5 crew members who take a shift each to go, yep, engines don't explode, T-machine still works.
I've just imagined now the civilians at the bottom of the Oberth class are kind of like the Morlocks. They've been shut away in the dark for so long that they've kind of mutated and become this other thing.
And then you bring a second Oberth alongside to study it.
You just have this chain of Oberth class ships.
Studying the degradation of Oberth staff over years.
And if you park them in a circle, then the first one can be studying the last one.
Then so does that equate to, and I hate to use this term because it is outdated and slightly racist, but the old notion of Chinese whispers? Can you do that as Chinese science? the actual.
You can certainly do that for the getting
science.
of grants, which is the main thing of science, as far as I can tell. You won't get any different results, or some significantly different results from each one. From each study is a separate study.
Yeah, it's repeatable in a controlled experiment.
Now you see why I don't do it as an episode of the USS Navis.
Let's study the crew of the Navis.
I think we want to be careful about any more Oberth talk, otherwise we might get assigned to one. It's a crew of
choice.
5.
Yeah.
Something Webby's counting quickly how many's on the bridge.
Yes, that reputation of 18 points. I'm just going to get rid of that.
You are now the most senior officer. No, I'm not. Anyway. Anything else before we get properly started? Okay then. So,
Has there been any? What's the reports from the? Obviously, the Dominion War's not kicking off yet, but has there been anything further coming back about the Bajoran wormhole and anything from that side of the
okay.
Federation?
Let me see.
So, has there been any repercussions on the what's it, flip crew?
So,
the
if we're
Atlantis crew.
referring to what happened to the crew of the USS Atlantis, the ship out of time.
So there's both the Atlantis and then there's what's going off on the. Are there any major events that are kicking off?
Let me see then. World with the Bluer Sun, the USS Atlantis. Well, you know, they've been going through rehabilitation and re-education. The ones that you asked for to be arrested are very much arrested. The Dominion, nothing with the Dominion War is even close to happening yet. The last we heard was changelings. And at the moment...
How could you fool the card like that?
At the moment, it's still just mutterings of changelings. Nothing else. As Gareth actually quite rightly points out, we're still quite a few weeks after the crash of the Enterprise D. As such, the crew of the Enterprise E have yet to be assigned because the Sovereign classes are still being constructed and tested out, I believe, at this particular point in time.
Yeah, the Sovereign's still a good couple of years from launch, isn't it?
Is there like a drafting war? like all of the captains bidding on trying to get their hands on certain notorious crew people.
Well, more than
Yeah,
likely.
just think about that Defiant class ship. They're never going to put that in commission.
We have a nice doctor they could have.
Why would
They've
they want me on the
already-
Defiant?
They've already put the Defiant. They've already gifted the Defiant to
Yeah, but
Deep Space
that's
Nine.
the weird prototype.
It is.
Yeah, that's got nothing on the Navis.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it's-
hear it. I hear it's in such poor shape they even have Romulans on board.
Oh, what I've heard previously was the ship's engines are so unstable that you can feel them through the hull, and the inertial dampeners just aren't up for the job.
She'll
Bad
dampeners not being
design.
up for the job is standard for Starfleet.
Do you want me to actually put them on full power next time? We usually keep them on about 20.
Let's listen to those kitty cats purr. I said purr, not roar! Thank you, Bethany, for the sound effects. Yeah, okay then. 3 hours later, and if Lieutenant Natala is indeed looking up information on Narendra Station, then the captain is
Yes.
about to pretty much explain the whole thing about Narendra Station. That Natala will have gone away by herself and
Yeah,
researched.
basically, I'm preparing the slides for the captain's presentation.
Yes, so 3 hours later, and the ship drops out of warp.
Like a
And
kid.
you get to see. Yeah. So ahead of you lies your typically shaped Federation starbase, looking like a giant mushroom in space.
Can I just stroke the Aquila because I know which one that is?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just say that when you said giant mushroom in space, Dr. Bertram suddenly went, Did someone say something?
Space fungi!
And at which point the captain, yes, pipes up. There we have it, Narendra Station. It may look like your typical Federation station from the outside, but on the inside, this station is the first joint Federation Klingon Empire construction. The Klingons were basically given leave to design and construct the majority of the interior of the station. They were inputs from the Federation, of course. But, as a result, Narendra Station is one of the most unique starbases you will find anywhere within the territories of either the Klingon Empire or the Federation. And we have 2 other ships that you can see who are part of the Narendra fleet. On our starboard, you can see the Galaxy-class USS Venture. And on our port, you can see the Intrepid-class USS Bellerophon.
No, he's taken the Thunderchild out of the collection. Oh, sad.
Why would you want the Thunderchild when you've got the Navis?
Yeah, but the Thunderchild destroys 3 Borg spheres on its own.
And
Yes, true.
do they have quantum torpedoes? Do they have ridiculously souped up power plants? I don't think they do. So,
So that's what the Intrepid class looks like. I wonder if they'll ever find Voyager.
indeed. Now, anybody who wants to look at schematics of Narendra Station can see the following. So, it's looking at the layout of the station that you realise this is actually quite a bit different from your regular plug-and-play prefabricated Starfleet, or Federation I should say, Starbase. there's an entire lower level dedicated to Klingon training facility.
So that's a pub.
Well, they have, I think they call it C deck or deck 3 to 6.
It does contain the Budwine Hall, so I wasn't far off.
You weren't far off, but there is a section on the top of the dorsal side of the station, which is the Galleria and Diplomatic level. They've basically got an entire. That's actually more than just one deck. That's more like two decks, 3 decks. I think it's decks 3 to 5 that the Galleria takes up, and that's not just the diplomatic areas. That's also features the auditorium, where briefings can be given, and also features basically almost like the promenade on Deep Space Nine, with just as eclectic a collection of vendors from all different parts of known space.
Why is it with all starbases do we have the fusion generators so exposed?
Well, the Klingons actually had something to say about that, and as such, the fusion generators and the ventral and dorsal comm arrays all have independent shields and backup power relays.
From an engineering perspective, the fusion generators are usually quite exposed because when they tend to go boom, we want to get them away from the people.
Haha.
It's also
But
why
it's
warp
so
cores can eject.
It's so exposed.
But we have shields. We barely have enough armor to talk about. What's the worry? We don't put ablative armor on ships, apart from that weird Defiant thing.
Your ship has got a plate of armor. Akira class has got a plate of armor.
Yeah.
Even the regular Akira does.
Well, this one
we don't
does
have
too.
armor. We don't need it.
That's why this has got. Just to make it clear, a regular Akira is a what's called a category 5 ship, and to put it in perspective, a Galaxy class is a category 6 as far as scale goes. So the Akira, at least this one, but most Akiras have got ablative armor, which means that you have got the level of you've got the level of armor resistance that a bigger than Galaxy class would have. Just to throw that into a bit of perspective there.
Does anyone fancy a sparring match with Avenger?
Well, that's it. When you compare the ships...
Tomorrow I've got to get the crew ready.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It'll all be
Always
installed on
comes on
Tuesday. So the thing now is even though your ship is only there's a shuttle for some reason on the bridge.
Sorry, I just have to see if we can click and drag a shuttle on. Yes, you can. I do
So
apologise.
somebody is flying a tiny remote control scale model of a shuttlecraft around the bridge.
Well, you did say to pack everything.
Probably a drone.
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend that didn't actually happen.
I'm stuck in the conference room now.
Zoom.
I mean, it's a much more effective way of getting luggage around than dragging it yourself.
Just shrink your luggage, stick it on the shuttlecraft, and portal it around.
But yeah, this actually brings up a very interesting, stark contrast in design philosophy, because the Galaxy class has been around for a good few years by this point, and the Galaxy class is basically your science hotel in space kind of thing, because it's just basically it's a moving apartment block with radar dishes, and the fact that it's such a massive ship is what gives it its power, and the fact that it's able to take and dish out damage. But that was never its intention. It was constructed with the knowledge, with the intention of being a long-haul deep space exploration vessel. So it's got defensive measures adequate for a ship its size, but it was constructed basically with exploration in mind. Whereas you compare that with the Intrepid, which is also a long-haul deep space exploration vessel, it is now scaled down significantly, and it's more of a wayfinder, a scout ship almost. And then you have the Navis, which is the Akira class, which is just an out-and-out warship.
We have to fight the Borg.
Exactly. And that was the reason the Akira class was made.
For whatever means necessary.
But yes, so
Apart
you
from
know,
assimilating crew members into the ship's core to speed it up. Apparently that's a step too far.
Right. Fibers, I know you were not really paying much attention with the Atlantis, but their engineering chief was doing vivisections. It didn't go down well. If you go down that route, it won't go well for you either. Just putting that out there.
all right. So the captain
Like
sits
I
down
said,
in the command
some
chair,
people went too.
Mm-hmm.
and so as well, Helm, take us in. And as
Aye, Captain.
as Vibers expertly starts maneuvering, you get a rather gruff voice over the comm. Federation vessel, identify yourself. The captain basically chimes in. USS Navis, requesting permission to dock. We have orders for posting, transmitting now. There's a sharp pause, at which point the guy on the other end goes, authentication is green. You are allocated docking area 6. What? Really? Welcome to Narendra Station. Happy now. And he signs off.
Oh, they're teaching the Klingons how to speak.
I like him already.
Captain
Are we sure that
Ducasse
wasn't under
stifles
duress?
a laugh. Are we sure
Are
that
we
was
sure
what?
that wasn't under duress? I didn't hear a single bit of swearing or muttering that wasn't in common.
Federation standard, I think they call it. Yes, so as you get closer, you realise that the Starbase is actually enormously huge and that it can actually fit the Navis into one of its docking ports. There are 6, I think, 6 capital ship-sized docking wedges, almost on the interior of the Starbase. And as the Bellerophon is also docking itself, the Venture, being a Galaxy-class ship, is a little too big, so she's just going to have to make do with offloading her crew via transporter and shuttles. And you guys pull in to the docking bay, and an automated voice comes over communications. All docking personnel, remember to have data pads and relevant ship information available for inspection by the dockmaster. Welcome to Narendra Station. Well then, says the captain as she taps the button. All crew to disembark. So... His Viper's going to engineering for one last look at his engines.
He's taking photos of where all the dials are.
I know how it's set up. They're not changing anything.
I better find everything in the exact same state I left it.
Captain, I assume that we are leaving security personnel on board as a skeleton minimum.
At first, but we will have to hand everything over to the dock masters for inspection. Standard protocol. moment as I just shunt y'all out.
Yeah,
There
so
are many warp cores.
Andrews will assign a small security personnel team to obviously undertake the necessary ship lockdown security requirements, herself included, whilst the unloading is going about, so that the ship is in a position to hand over.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Should we warn their Arboretum?
Now, wait a second.
So, you eventually exit out onto, well, into the docking bay. The size of the docking bay itself is very, well, difficult to judge adequately because you're only seeing a small sealed part of it. But, welcome to Narendra Station.
Ah, Christopher Lloyd Klingons.
I've had enough of you.
That was a Klingon engineer, wasn't it?
Now, a denobulan woman marches out to the gantry. Well, come on, I haven't got all day. Please have your operations officer ready with ship schematics and layouts so that my guys know where they're going and what they're doing.
Right. Yes. I'll be right back.
You kidding me? So Commander Linares kind of puts his fingers to the bone ridge of his nose. The captain tries to stifle a chuckle. I believe my operations officer has just simply gone to check the necessary credentials were available.
Up to date.
Up to
Captain.
date. Well, come on, says the dock mistress. Haven't got all day. I've got you, I've got the Bellerophon, I've got whatever else happens today that I need to see to.
Are we expecting additional ships in the area then?
I'm sure the Admiral or the General will tell me what I need to know when they think I need to know it, which will probably be a whole hour before I have to get ready for it, so, you know. But no, you're the only guys on my list for today, you, the Venture, and the Bellerophon.
With some very badly scribbled handwritten notes.
Are you kidding me with this? You know what? Take it up with the Admiral. I guess I'll just walk around and find out for myself. What is this, Akira class? Okay.
Here's the ship specs.
Yes, prototype Akira class, there are some subtle differences.
Yep, like there are 364 blue chairs on deck 4.
This is probably... Yeah, Nova does have OCD, doesn't she? So she would have actually... got to count at every chair, etc. Everything's... That's what Nova's list is.
That's what the handwritten notes are.
Alright, off you go. Let's see, you guys are the officers. So, the yeoman at the door will show you where you need to go. The rest of your crew will just have to stay in line and hand over their pads to see where they're going to get given as quarters on the ship. The rest of you guys, I think the Admiral wants a word. General probably have words too. These guys are just engineers busily going about their job. And the first thing you notice, of course, is that there are Federation human engineers and Klingon engineers too. Actually, he's going to answer that. Give me a sec.
I'm an engineer, not an allocator.
Flip, I'm an engineer, not a doctor, damn it.
Some engineers do have doctorates.
Give me a moment, I'm trying to find the name of the character I'm after. I can't spell. Oh, sorry, did I not have him reply to that? All right, says Master Chief, the Master Chief Petty Officer. Get out of my way so my guys can get on with your ship. Who are you?
Here's the specs, here's the places you can't go, and by the way, I've got a skeleton engineering crew, because it's a new core, don't touch it.
Can't go? I'm the Chief Petty Officer here, mister. Take it up with the Admiral if you don't like it. Alright, off you go. Just through the main entrance to my south here. We'll take you to where you need to go.
Please take good care of my notes, I need those.
Sure. What are you looking at, you mugs? Get back to work. So, yes, you don't have to go all the way to the end of the map. But yes, everywhere you go, Klingons and Federation folks working together. Especially here on the busy docks, they seem to be working together quite harmoniously. I'll do 3 weeks of night duty if you're sure I'm not in quarters near Dr. Moss.
I have to sit next
Get 5. The captain just there going, bit of decorum, guys, come on. Okay, so. I wonder if Andrews' cybernetics would be more efficiently powered with biophotovoltaic power cells. There's only one way to know. Science!
Andrews, I'm going to need to see you at your earliest convenience.
I'm pretty sure, Doctor, that I'm not due any remedial surgeries or checkups for the near future.
I'm just figuring, have you not heard of biophotovoltaic technology? It's tried and tested, been around since the 21st century.
Andrew's there going, don't engage him, don't engage him, don't engage him.
Just pretend he's not there. Pretend he's not there. Pretend he's not there.
Surely enough, when you reach the exit of the docking area, you are shown by a very helpful steward who takes your individual data pads and, of course, gives them a read over and directs you to the main turbo lift, and says that as the senior staff, you have to go attend a briefing in the auditorium, which is where we will head next. And in front of you, in front of the doors, there appears to be an Andorian female who is there with a large stack of pads in one hand, and is apparently has noticed you all arriving. Particularly, seems to notice Keval. Welcome to Narendra Station.
Well, thank you very much.
My name's Lieutenant Zarisa. I'm the liaison to Admiral Hebert. You are with the... She looks you up and down. Navis, I see. She
Yes.
hands Keval a data pad, but she makes sure that he has to touch her hand to take it from her. Her
Right, thank
antennae
you.
twitch approvingly.
So, if I need anybody to show me around the station, who do I talk to?
Well, I would be more than happy to give you a tour around the station if you can at least give me time to clear it with the Admiral.
Of course. You know where I'll be.
I'm sure I can always find you if I need to. In the meantime, you can tell your captain and the rest of your senior staff to just go straight in. Your belongings can be left here, and we will ensure that they are kept safe, so that when you come out of the briefing, you can take your belongings to your newly assigned quarters. I'm so shipping this. Do give your captain and senior crew my compliments. Her antennae twitch suggestively as well.
Well, thank you. I will do so. Might I say, what a lovely smile you have.
Thank you. Hopefully you'll have a reason to see it more.
That would be fantastic.
She does kind of look past you and then straightens herself and says, excuse me, it looks like the crew of the Venture and the Bellerophon are coming. I need to give them a tour as well.
Of course.
Welcome to Narendra Station.
Captain, this way, if you please.
The captain, who knows Keval very, very well, just gives him a look. She can't help but hide the knowing grin.
You sly old dog.
I'm still quite young.
I thought Andorians were sorry, it's a figure of speech. I thought Andorians were quite cold-hearted in the as far as I understood, mating requirements were quite slow. That was a pretty quick hit off.
Commander, pardon me, Linaris leans in to both Andrews and Keval. Maybe she's just impressed with the size of his antenna.
It's not just the size, it's how you twitch them.
And on that note, Andrews is probably quite disgusted at that. Nope.
Okay, so the entrance reception area to the auditorium is kind of busy. A couple of... obviously, I haven't filled it in with the sheer amount of people that are going to be milling about, but you've got two large display screens to show various bits of news from all around the Federation and the Klingon Empire. So naturally, whenever Federation news is up, there's Klingon text going across the bottom, and likewise when the Klingon news is coming in, Federation standard text is coming up as well.
Why do I get the feeling that you got the news of the tragic destruction of the Enterprise D, and then the Klingon strip translates something like "stupid loser humans can't even keep their own flagship from crashing on the planet in slight turbulence"?
Something about the crew of the flagship Amah were recently given disciplinary hearings after they allowed the ship stocks of blood wine and food to get too low. At which point a mutiny occurred. Something about that. Something like that. Either way, yes, there appear to be two side entrances to actually go up onto the... what's the word? The seating areas of the auditorium, whereas there's also a set of double doors to go through the main.
Yeah, we've got through the stands, why not?
Yeah. So yeah, Captain makes her way through. And if I can just move these guys and make them visible. So even though they come around you and past you, the command crews of the other two ships are starting to file in and mill around. The captain herself plonks herself down near the front here. Where's Linares? There he is. At which point, she looks over to the crew of the Venture and waves, kind of half steps forward as the Venture's captain and first officer walk over. Captain Corbett! My goodness, it's been a while since we've seen each other. Captain Corbett, a rather aged gentleman, but wearing it well for a human, and his Benzite first officer come over and shake Captain Ducasse's hand. It has indeed been a while, hasn't it, Adriana? Good to see you're doing well. This is my first officer, Commander Rozek. I remember, Rozek, you served briefly on the Phoenix, I believe? Oh, that's quite right, Captain. Yes, indeed, I was there, I believe, whilst you were only a visiting lieutenant at the time, before you were reassigned. Yes, thank you for that reminder. May I introduce my first officer, Commander Linares Loss, and my senior bridge crew? Commander Andrews, Lieutenant Thazanan, Commander Vibers, Dr. Bertram, and Lieutenant Natala. Lieutenant Nova is over there fraternizing with the rest of your crew. Yes. Delighted to meet you all. Well, this is something, isn't it? This station. Haven't been here. Very much looking forward to it.
It's certainly unique in its architecture. Obviously, what it stands for is the first major step that was taken in the Federation Klingon alliance, wasn't it? The sacrifice of Enterprise C, if I remember correctly.
Your history serves you well, Commander Andrews. It is indeed a very powerful name for a very powerful mission statement, as you quite rightly point out. Your Captain Ducasse kind of looks over to the other crew at this point. I see Captain Beckford has brought his crew. At which point, Captain Corbett kind of looks back and shakes his head a little bit. Yes, Captain Corbett. Well, it's certainly a privilege to have a captain of his caliber here, to be sure. I was surprised they didn't give command of the Bellerophon to you, actually, Adriana. The captain kind of shuffles a bit uncomfortably at this. Corbett and I were both in the runnings, but in the end, the better qualified of us won out. Well, the better qualified, certainly. The better captain? I don't know. But one can't argue with his service record in any case. I suppose I'd better go and say hello. Only polite and all that. Excuse me. And so Captain Corbett goes off. Commander Rozek just kind of watches his captain go and doesn't seem all that keen to join him.
Captain, is there some sort of seated level of anonymity between yourself and Captain Blackford?
I wouldn't say so, no. It's, Commander Rozek. At which point Rozek steps in. How would you best describe Commander Blackford? Oh, well, he's certainly one of the, smartest Starfleet captains that we have, I just find him a little bit uncomfortable to be around. Captain Ducasse kind of nods at this. That I will definitely agree with. Well, yeah, he can be a bit... This is Rozek. He can be a bit, how shall we say... imperious? I would say, says Captain Ducasse, arrogant is more like it. But he has reason for his arrogance. You can't deny the man's talents. If he just didn't treat everybody else as beneath him, that would... I shouldn't say such things about a Starfleet captain, I apologize. Just, being a Benzite, you know, I try and keep everyone happy. Try and please everyone. It didn't take me long to realize that it's practically impossible to please Captain Blackford. He'll only talk to you if you're a captain. He kind of leans in conspiratorially at this.
The Valerathon would be effectively the flagship of the 20th now, wouldn't it?
Oh, I wouldn't know, but to all intents and purposes, I suppose so. I mean, one would assume a Galaxy class like the Venture, but what with the Bellerophon being a fresh off the line Intrepid class, then yeah, chances are good that the Bellerophon will be the flagship.
These are three of the most powerful ships I could imagine. All stationed here at the same time.
I know. It certainly got a lot of the Venture crew talking, that's to be sure.
Something doesn't feel right about this situation, with it being the fact that, like you say, there are three very powerful Federation vessels here. I assume that there is going to be some Klingon vessels arriving as well, but that suggests that something is going on.
Well, I can't speak for that, of course, but who knows? At which point... Oh, I'd better get back to my seat. Lovely meeting you all.
Yeah.
At which point Rozek goes off to join the rest of his crew. And Captain Corbett of the Venture walks back to his seating. Commander Ducasse is looking over at Nova and giving her the look. And just nods as Nova comes past. At which point, the two figures who've been standing not far from yourselves, but been busy squirreling away on the computer display, mount the central auditorium. Okie dokie. Let's see, I've got the ambience, and I just need... Welcome to Narendra Station, Captains. I am Admiral April Hebert. You and your crews were assigned to the 20th Fleet under my command, though I'm here to tell you that you will not be added to the standard fleet rotation. No, Starfleet and I have a greater purpose for you and your crew. The Shackleton Expanse. We've sat on the edge of that region of space for too long, without formally sending in a ship to properly explore, and Starfleet's decided that now is as good a time as any. I suspect our resident civilian chief of sciences, Dr. Taliaferro, fired up some political kindling under the Federation Science Council to get Starfleet moving into the Expanse. Whatever she said to whoever she said it to, it worked. And now I have orders to send someone in. I pulled the strings I needed to pull to ensure I got not one, but 3 vessels assigned to this mission. And within a few months, our Klingon allies will be sending at least 1 warship. I expect they'll make the appropriate noises about supporting our exploration efforts, but let's be honest, they'll be looking to further their own goals as well. Make no mistake, however, this isn't going to be just a deep space exploration mission. Traffic in and out of the Expanse and the station has ramped up in recent months. We have more independent vessels and merchant freighters coming and going than ever before, which has kept security on their toes. Further, if Dr. Taliaferro's latest research is accurate, something is happening within the Expanse that warrants a closer look. I want you and the rest of the exploration flotilla to be my eyes and ears within the Expanse. That's enough for now. Get yourselves settled in. Briefings tomorrow at 0730 hours. Crew of the Navis, after the General has had his speech, I'd ask you to remain behind. Thank you.
Captains, as the co-administrator of Starbase 364, I am expected to welcome you to the service of this station and region of space. Welcome. There, that task is complete. Now I will be direct with you. I do not know you or your ships. I do not know what battles you have fought, or what glory, if any, you have gained for yourself or your crew. But I am not so far removed from the command chair of the PA that I have forgotten the thrill of a new assignment and the challenge of being among the first into the unknown reaches of space. I have sat where you now sit, and believe I know what you are thinking, even if your heart is not Klingon. The Expanse is not for the timid. This assignment is not for the weak. Your Federation scientists believe there are disturbances and phenomena within the Expanse that require closer study. Fine. Let Starfleet send their ships to poke and prod at the cosmos. I have no interest in such things unless they prove to be a threat to this station, the Empire, or to our alliance. In that order. Do not forget these words. I have issued a request to Chancellor Gowron to send me a proper warship and captain to support the exploration of the Expanse. While your little vessels manage the scientific portion of the mission, we will defend you and fight whatever Habidak dare to interfere. Rest assured we will defend you like an Alpha Targ defends its newborn mewling brood. Enough. I grow tired of speaking to you, and there is blood wine to be consumed. Rintakvis!
At which point the General pretty much just stomps out. And the Admiral just kind of steps down from the podium and starts to sort through her various notes, and she is soon joined by her assistant. The various captains well, Captain Corbett starts to walk over along with Commander Rozek, and then Captain Blackford. And one imagines his, obviously, Vulcan first officer walk over, but don't actually walk all the way over, which of course makes, or forces, Captain Ducasse and Commander Linares to walk over themselves. When Blackford comes over, he just gives Ducasse a nod. Ducasse, I assume that the usual evening is planned. Captain Ducasse nods. Of course, Blackford. It is, after all, a family tradition. As soon as I get myself settled in, I will ask you all to come around, say, 1700 hours. All my senior staff will be there. Captain Corbett, I would encourage you to bring yours. Captain Corbett goes, oh, that would be wonderful. Just my senior staff. Excellent. At which point Captain Blackford goes, I'll be there, but it'll just be myself and my first officer. My crew have important things to do, of course. I will see you at 1700. He kind of gives both the Venture and the Navis bridge crews a cursory look and then just gives a dismissory sniff. The Vulcan's first officer just turns around and follows his captain. Captain Corbett just kind of looks at you all with a kind of look, what you gonna do kind of expression on his face. I very much look forward to dinner tonight, Adriana. Your family tradition, as it were, is something I much look forward to. I will see you all later tonight when we're all settled in. Captain Corbett gives the entirety of the Navis bridge crew an affirmative nod and then goes back to his own crew. Captain Ducasse and Commander Linares come back to you guys. Well, says Commander Linares, can't wait. That's gonna be, yeah. Did Captain Blackford read your stuff on Moss?
No.
I don't think so.
Did you know? Did you know? I think that definitely needs a bluff roll there for Faznan.
Did you know Captain Blackford read your paper on Moss? I suppose if
I'm
you
pretty
really
sure,
want to
yeah.
give it a roll, then it's going to be something along the lines of presence and command to try and fool somebody.
It's not my best.
No.
Not my best. Alright, let's try this.
In case anybody
Captain,
watching didn't catch
Commander?
that, he looks like the kind of person who would only treat moss as suitable for bonsai.
And Dr. Bertram's that sounds like a deeply crude insult coming from Dr. Bertram. Do I have to roll to defend against that?
Yeah, same thing. Presence versus command.
Presence and
Not
command.
versus,
Not
presence
my
and
best
command.
wins.
Kind of. I'm
Do you know if he
curious
gets
now.
one above? Does I was going to say if he got two, did we gain a momentum because he beat the challenge by one?
Nope. Well, you'll never know now, will you? Okay. So.
Careful, if I've rolled some natural 20s, we may have gained Moss threat.
You suddenly get an
Captain-
alarm as the containment on the Navis goes critical. Sorry, John, you were going to say.
Do you have any strong opinions on fraternization with the Klingons?
Well, it's a darned good question, says the captain. Overall, we're here to maintain relations with the Klingons, so as long as we can all play nice with each other, I have no problem. Klingons being Klingons, of course. I just ask that if you do engage in fraternization, then you do so carefully. But we are here to
So-
maintain relations, so.
Nova, have you ever heard of a Raptor Geno?
No.
It
Oh,
sounds like
dear.
a terrible idea.
Yeah.
No, but just
Mum!
remember, if you are going to try and make blood wine, the blood has to be fermented.
And it's usually better if it's not your own.
Well, I've never tried that.
Anyway,
Okay, so Admiral, after the rest of the crews of the other two ships depart, Admiral Hebert kind of steps up to you guys and says, "Okay, Captain Ducasse, I assume you're having your traditional captain's meet, as it were." You're also invited to attend if you wish, Admiral. Oh, so Admiral Hebert waves the thing away. I'm far too busy, I'm afraid, but at the moment I'm happy enough just to let the captains and the senior staff of each get to know each other a bit better. You will all be serving alongside each other after all. Like I intimated, 0730 hours to tomorrow morning, station time. I have a special assignment for the crew of the Navis, so make sure you are all here ready for it. can't exactly give much away at this point because it is going to be a classified mission.
You're sending the Navis rather than the Venture. What would Captain Blackfoot say? Sorry, Admiral.
Captain Blackford and the Bellerophon have their own mission to accomplish. But, of course, if yourselves or any of your senior officers, if any of your crew have anything they need for me to go over or to see, then feel free to send it to my assistant. She indicates Lieutenant Zareza behind her. And I'm sure we can try and get you some time. You can always find my offices if you need them. Captain, Commanders, Lieutenants, welcome to Narendra Station. Okay. So, yeah, your time as characters is now to use however you want to use it for the next little bit. So, what would you like to do now that you're on your new home?
Let's go show you what a Ractigino is, Nova. This sounds like a really good plan.
Okay, well, you know, once you, since you're on the Galleria level, the diplomatic area of things, the auditorium, is technically on the Galleria levels, so you don't have far to go to actually find the various shopping stalls and whatnot. In fact, as soon as you go down to the Galleria area, and I'm just gonna quickly change the sound to represent the Galleria, even though the map might not necessarily reflect it. It is abuzz, and the style of the place appears to be very, not clashing, but the multi-levels that some of the shops have, and the customizability of each individual shopping area makes for a very eclectic mix of shops and services on the Galleria. Every now and again you can see Federation and Klingon security doing patrols along the Galleria. Other than that, you've got people from all walks and lots of different races and places.
Natala has two very different ideas of what she'd like to do. One of them is to find out what intoxicants she can buy and then, or can get her hands on, and then just go and sit in her quarters getting stoned. And the other is to try and make friends, possibly involving taking up bat'leth combat as a new hobby.
Okay, well,
Wrestling.
as far as you can find multiple places with things to drink, but illegal narcotics and stuff like that, there's no chance. Permitted chemicals are all minor, moderate stuff. Most of it's synthetic, so that it can't actually do you any harm, and it's like, you know, synthahol.
Okay.
You've got the taste
Just
of
wondering
alcohol,
whether the what was considered legal within the Klingon might be slightly different than her previous experiences.
Yes, indeed. But you get the feeling that both Federation and Klingon law, to a degree, yeah, it's kind of meshed here.
So two layers of security have overlapped rather than.
Yeah. So you're finding lots of places to eat, lots of places to drink, lots of tailors and, you know, craftspeople of all various walks of life. But the only you find perfume stalls and stuff like that. but it's not like. I mean, I think blood wine is possibly the only allowed intoxicant. Everything else is more than likely going to be derivations on synthetic stuff that gives you a slight feeling of a buzz, but without the side effects. You know, the cerebral inhibitors, let's say.
So there's no chance of finding Romulan ale then?
It would depend who you would ask, but you get the impression that since that's technically contraband...
Well, it wasn't in my first host time.
I mean, the distance to smuggle it would be shorter than ever, but across probably the most militarized part of the border.
Well, that isn't to say that finding any of that stuff is impossible.
But not in a couple of hours.
But, yeah, you would more than likely need to make contact with certain types of people.
You do realise that if narcotics are found on board the starship during regular routine security inspections, there may be a few choice words said.
Which is why it's being done now, rather than at a future time. Don't get the opportunity that often.
Yes, so...
Do we have it as a whole? Do we allow free reign of the actual? Yeah, obviously the Klingon area is kind of like, you know, the Klingon training hall, etc. But are Federation staff allowed to visit there?
You can try.
Yeah, I think that's what Andrews would do. Is that spend some time, well, not fisticuffs. Oh yeah, hand-to-hand combat sparring, seeing if she can gain the respect of several, kind of like Klingon warriors, etc., to prove that the Federation aren't just all brains. Some of them can put up a fight as well.
Interesting. Okay. In that case, give me just a moment then. Give me just a second.
You know, still every time I see Vibers, I do still see that he's singing into a frying pan.
Yeah.
I can't. Singing into a not a frying pan, but a saucepan.
So, who is going with Andrews to the Klingon level?
Yeah, that seems to be the more viable of Natala's plans. So, yep, doing
Okay,
that.
so Natala and Andrews are going to the Klingon section. What about the rest of you?
Want to check out what sort of resources and facilities they have that I can use for research.
Okie
Come on,
dokie. Well,
I've got this great research thing you can do. Right.
Drug Nova.
Just caffeinated Nova is, you know, the best Nova.
I thought that was
Okay.
what you were going to do with Ratkajino, or
Yeah,
how you pronounce it.
That is exactly what they're talking
excuse me,
about.
clearing my throat a lot. So, if Berman is going to visit the Arboretum, or the Science Labs, or Sickbay, you got a choice. Where'd you want to go?
Science labs, probably.
Okay.
They're more likely to actually have research purposes, whereas sickbay is, if I'm poking around there doing research on you know, in the place they're supposed to be sick, healing sick people, they'll get annoyed.
If you go to the Arboretum, we'll never hear from you again.
Where's Dr. Moss? He's become one with the moss.
Yeah. As much as I'd like to go just dive right into the botany, you've got to actually lay down the foundation for your research, which means looking at the facilities you're working with first.
Okay, so where's Nova going?
She's just going to allow herself to be led off by Vibus, I think. He made an offer.
Where's Vibers going? The Ractagino place.
Ractagino and see if I can get the ensign to squirm about Gak. It seems traditional with Klingon culture. And who am I to break tradition?
Okie dokie. That leaves Keval. Where's Keval off to, if anywhere?
Well, depending on whether Lieutenant Cereza is still busy or not. If she's not busy,
It
then
looks like she
I
might
think
be
he
on
will
duty.
go for. Yeah, if she's still on duty, then he will stroll through the diplomatic area / promenade a bit, just to get an idea of how the different cultures are getting along, without any tensions. If she's off duty, obviously, then he will be engaging in some social activity.
So yes, sadly for Keval, because apparently she's the Admiral's assistant, she is actually pretty busy. But she definitely offers to attend Captain Ducas's captain banquet kind of thing. And the Captain Ducas herself is definitely agreeable to allowing her to come along, even though the Admiral isn't. So yeah, you have a +1.
Ooh.
In the meantime, yeah, you can probably end up going with Vibers and Nova to see what kind of stuff you can find. So
Sounds good.
I will.
At least Lost going with Bertram. Hey!
Loss actually is going to be going with Andrews and Natala because he's very curious as well. So let's deal with Bertram first. Bertram going up to the the science labs.
That'll be also where the chief civilian would be, wouldn't it?
So, Bertram, you go down a few levels and you end up coming out into this huge reception area that has got massive signposting hovering over these enormous double doors, each of them leading to different departments. But the biggest one and the most active one by far seems to be the xenoarchaeology department. And there are regularly rather overworked looking assistants running back and forth in and out of this place, carrying stacks of pads or coming back in with cases that you can only imagine are filled with equipment.
Bertram grew up on an isolated colony that was dedicated to research, so he estimates about 60% of the stuff they're stressing over were literally just rubbish tasks given to them so that the higher-up scientists can laugh at them. He remembers those days.
So, yeah, any one of them you want to visit particularly, or are you just having a look?
Are there any sort of like dedicated to xenobiology or botany?
Xenobiology, yes. Botany, not so much. There are. Don't get me wrong. The labs do have a botanical department because obviously, plant life, for its obvious, not only food but air and other such things, it needs to be studied. So you do find a smaller department dedicated to it. But nonetheless, just window shopping as you are, you do see quite a few new species of plants that you have yet to come across. And the botany department has only got like one department head, maybe 2 assistants.
Yeah.
It's not terribly populous.
Yeah. I'll look around conspiratorially to see if any members of the Navis who I know are around.
Not really.
And therefore, I don't have to keep up my reputation as a moss-obsessed botanical idiot doctor, and I'll go into xenobiology.
All right. As soon as you go into that department, as soon as the doors swoosh open, the hustle and bustle, the noise of hustle and bustle increases by a fairly respectable amount. It's not everybody shouting, but it's busy. And there's one individual that seems to be at the heart of all this activity. A humanoid woman, not terribly tall and about middle-aged by human standards. But her deep black eyes kind of give you a clue that she's a betazoid. And she's there basically barking orders at all of these different people.
Try not to...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. What was that?
So I was going to say, I was trying to think, well, let's compare this betazoid to my previous encounters with betazoids. Is she like the Gestalt entity, or is she like the insanely energetic Catwoman that runs around the ship all day counting chairs?
Well, as soon as you come anywhere near within her circle of activity, she's there handing out pads and looking at data coming her way, and then shoos people off on assignment, at which point she actually finally notices that Dr. Bertram's there, and she just goes, yeah, who are you?
Dr. Bertram, recently assigned here as Chief Medical Officer of the Navis.
So you're not actually assigned to my staff at this point in time, huh?
Nope. I wasn't aware that this was a restricted area or it was inappropriate. I apologise if I've broken any.
Restricted? No, but if you're not here on part of my team and working on something, then you're taking up space and air, so if you don't mind.
Very well. And Dr. Bertram will just turn around and leave.
Thank you. Right. And she just goes straight back to it. Yeah. Her badge did say Dr. Helena Taliaferro.
Okie dokie. Whether or not Dr. Bertram will pay any attention to...
But that's the name that Admiral Hebert mentioned as the one who basically seems to have convinced Starfleet to send your ship and 2 others. So you're kind of getting the idea why this happened, because she seems to have a very... Just standing back, as Dr. Bertram is making to leave, just takes another look back at what's going on. This... It's almost like watching controlled chaos. But it's all... She's like the queen bee of the hive. And she's brusque and short to everybody, but you can't help but notice the efficiency of everything that's going on. So, yeah.
She's kind of like at the sort of the eye of the storm of chaos and somehow making it all work despite the fact it seems like all hell is about to break loose all around her.
Indeed.
Right, so a Nova Star Betazoid, got it.
The fact that she is, and you can see different departments are coming in. Different department heads are coming in from the various different stations. It seems that she is the de facto head of the entire science division. What you also notice, that also impresses you, is that she does not have a uniform. She's not Starfleet, she's a civilian. So the fact that a civilian is in charge of an entire science department and is bossing Starfleet science around kind of speaks to her as a person. So yeah. Brusque but impressive so far. Anything else you're doing?
Basically window shop around, although I'm getting the impression from or Bertram will get the impression from meeting for her that this isn't really a place to sort of dip in and do research at interest. It's all to a purpose. So he's basically sort of like goes round sort of window shopping and stuff like that, and sort of thinks of inspiration of how he's going to set up his own little private research in probably in whatever quarters he's going to have.
Okay. So with that, we can safely move to... Let me me just change the location a sec. There was a badop. Yeah, so Nova and Vibers and Fazanan, it doesn't take long for you to get wind of a... it's not a bar, it's not a restaurant, it's just basically a meet-up place that also sells food and drink. Maxim's place, it's called. And yeah, there's all sorts of folks enjoying their time off, Klingons and Federation alike, all mixing, and the Klingons are as boisterous as ever, but everyone seems to be getting on fine. The most interesting thing about Maxim's place is the different fusions of food that's going on. So we're not just talking about an equal split of Klingon and accepted Federation dishes. We're talking some very interesting experiments in Klingon cross dishes, fusion dishes, basically. So when you see some of the things on offer on the menu, it's very much a case of how can you make that work? Andorian stew and something else.
I look through the menu and pick a number of random things that look like they're going to be weird and confuse people.
The founders of the Federation menu with asterisk, but it moves.
It's a nice big collection of random stuff that we've got shared.
So yeah, you've got quite the eclectic selection of stuff going on.
And of course, some of the strongest drinks they've got.
Okay.
Plus the coffee I promised Nova.
Maybe we should have a wager on who gets sick first from this food.
Did I hear Keval's antennas like do speech marks in the air then when he said food?
I'm gonna guess you guys because I mix all sorts of random shit.
I've got lifetimes of experience of this problem, so that's probably you, Lieutenant.
So yeah, whilst you're here in Maxim's place, yeah, people come and go from off the. It's not exactly like Quark's Bar kind of thing. You do have to come through the double doors in order to get here and pick a table and partake. The guy who actually runs the place doesn't actually run the day-to-day stuff. It's more almost a franchise operation. So you've got random folks who are obviously taking the job to tend bar and serve food. So, but the one individual amongst the crowd does stand out, and he's currently sat at the bar. Is this Orion male who seems to be doing his best to charm a Federation science officer, and he seems to be spinning some rather interesting tale about how he managed to pilot a broken down Bajoran freighter away from a bunch of Nausicaans. The science officer, of course, she has enough of this and basically walks off to join her friends. But as she does, the Orion looks around the room and then settles on you guys and grabs his drink and then kind of walks over. Hey, new on the station, I see. The name's Rayner. Mind if I take a seat?
Would the owner allow you to take it?
Are they free?
Okay, let me rephrase. Obviously, I'm dealing with pedants. Would you mind
Grab
if
a
I
seat,
sat?
you can tell some stories. Next round's on you, though.
Alright, and he moves around next to Nova. So, Starfleet, with your uniforms, how's that working out for you? What the hell are you guys eating?
Yes.
If you want actual
be-
fusion food, you might want to try Idosa's place just across the road. This place doesn't do a half bad job of it, but if you want the real stuff, yeah.
Do you get any commission?
From what? Idosa's place? Ha! I wish. But I do run some of her supplies now and again. That's what I do. Free spirit. Free agent. Come and go as I please. Stop for as long as I like. Till, of course,
Did you say
somebody-
free spirits?
I'm a free spirit, dear boy, but if you really want to offer me a free drink, then, you know, that's on you.
Only if you tell us what the good stuff is to drink.
Oh, now that I can help you with. Hey, barkeep! He kind of shouts over to the other side of the room, attracting everybody's attention. I'll take the 22, the Andorian brandy. I'll give you Andorian something. You guys may be cold fish, but you do some really warming brandies. Spicy stuff. I like it. The guy who runs the place, he gets actual authentic stuff from Andoria. I haven't yet persuaded him to let me run the route, but hey, maybe my winning smile could persuade him. So what about you, blue hair? You think you could persuade me to do stuff? Obviously,
Hello,
talking
what
to
would
Nova.
you like? What would you like persuading to do?
I don't know. What you got on offer?
You know any good intoxicants?
Well, don't try the blood wine, that's for damn sure, but the good stuff will be coming in bottles soon. Sure enough, a Ferengi waiter comes along and brings a bottle with a couple of glasses. Or 2 couples of glasses if you really want to be pedantic. Right. Oh, where's my manners? I haven't introduced myself. Raynor. Ask anybody, they know exactly who I am. Just, don't mention my name to the security chiefs, okay?
Okay.
But if we're being serious, no, seriously, don't mention my name to the security chief, because she hates me. The other
Well,
security
yes.
chief, I'm okay with.
Security people tend to be like that.
Well, hey, if I was a Packlid, I'd be kind of bitter too. You know, what do Packlids do? They're jowly, they're fat, they're geniuses. They let everybody know they're geniuses. They don't actually do anything with being geniuses. Now, the Klingon co-head of security, he actually does stuff.
So all of your talk about you and the security chief makes me think there's some kind of failed relationship in there.
Ah, she wishes. But hey, not for lack of my trying, you know what I mean? Nah, trust me. No, in all seriousness, do not try that with her. Just, whoa. It's not worth the trouble, man. It really isn't. So, which one of you guys is the pilot? Rick's is brandy and Rapagino. Oh dear God.
I'm the pilot.
Oh really? So, which ship is yours? Now, he actually leans forward right towards Keval. He seems genuinely interested now. Which ship is yours?
I
'Cause
lean
spotted
back slightly.
3.
Which one? Well, it's not mine per se, but
You know what I mean. You're the guy who handles the ship, right? So she has to respond to your touch, so she's pretty much yours, if you know what I mean. You gotta treat a ship like you would treat a lady. Or so they tell me. Depends on the lady, of course.
well, we're on the Akira class.
An Akira class? Huh. What, you mean those big-ass saucer section with skis on the back?
Be nice, she's my ship.
Hey, if it does the job, then you know, it's all good. It's all good. But, I don't know, for a pilot like me, there's nothing quite like the smooth lines and the immediate reaction of a small ship. You know, big ships are great, but, you know, they got the handling of a three-legged Klingon musk ox.
Oh, you should see some of these ones.
Yeah?
Ours? Firepower of a galaxy in a, in something with a maneuverability of an Old Orleans class.
Really? Wow.
Mm.
Hey, you know, I could probably do a lot with a ship like that. Do you guys, take commissions?
Yes.
I could split a commission with you guys, maybe 80-20. I mean, obviously I'd be doing all the talking. And I might have to do some of the piloting too.
That might get us in a bit of an issue.
Hey, I can't be giving up all my secret pathways through the Expanse, now can I? Man's gotta make a living. Besides, this place... Whew, you wouldn't believe the kind of astrological phenomena that you have to get through to get anywhere in the Shackleton Expanse. Your boy here...
So,
well,
you're claiming... Sorry, go.
Actually, no, Keval, Jan, you spoke first, so you go first.
So you're claiming you have some credible and valid maps for navigating routes through the Expanse.
Hey. Maps? Yeah, but I keep them all in my head like. That way nobody can steal them.
Sure.
What would it make it worth to get those maps out of your head?
Well, now we're talking business. How about another drink? This time on you. And, maybe my, pilot buddy and I here could swap some stories and we could, maybe during those stories we could see what falls out. And maybe if there's, any new routes that you make through the Expanse while you're out there exploring, and could you let your buddy Raynor know about some of them ahead of everybody else? That way I could let you know some of mine. Deal? Come on.
Okay,
That's
come
it.
around.
That's what I like to hear. Now,
You did say you wanted intoxicants. I think we're delivering enough of them.
meanwhile, let's go to Lieutenant Commander Linares, Commander Andrews, and Lieutenant Natala. So, the moment you guys make it down to the Klingon section at the base of the ship, everything, the decor becomes immediately Klingon. It's all gantries and grates and loud doors and red lighting and lots of shouting and the smell of targs as they're running about. And you get more than a few glares from the Klingons as you just march through, but no one's actually stopping you. But everybody's just watching you as you go past. Now, eventually... Blood wide and espresso. Eventually, you are attracted to the sound of, well, what can only be the sound of a fighting pit.
We're looking for very different things as a group. At least very different of the same thing. I'm pretty sure that Andrews wants to do the literal prison thing of find the biggest guy and hit him. And that is not what Natala's here for.
Let me give you guys all the vision in the world. There we go. So, as you walk into the auditorium, there are a couple of Klingons up in the stands, all hurling insults and whatnot. There are a pair of Klingons duking it out in the center. Most seem to be just watching, laughing, cheering certain guys on. One rather striking female Klingon, however, is there just yelling abuse at them. And as you guys kind of come in, the Klingon officer closest to you kind of looks you up and down and then just nudges the woman, who spins round on him and looks like she's about to lamp him one, but then he kind of jerks his thumb back at you guys and she takes a look. Well, are you here to spectate or actually prove your mettle, Starfleet? The fighting in the middle stops and everyone's eyes turns to you. Commander Linares is like, well, Andrews, you wanted this.
It depends what the stakes are. Observing first if possible, and then potentially taking part.
Now, the one thing you notice about this female Klingon is that her form of dress is different to some of the others. It's still definitely Klingon, but it's like she's got more decoration.
So it's in one of the noble houses of Klingon culture.
She has a couple of scars and whatnot, but she definitely has a couple of prominent marks and decorations about her outfit, her uniform.
I'm concerned that that Andrews might be being too passive. And Natala's kind of glancing over, looking for the nod to basically go hype man for this.
Well, the female Klingon looks the three interlopers up and down, but she seems to focus on Andrews more than anything else. Well then, Petach. Perhaps you fancy your chances against and I use the term for these three-legged clumsy targs, loosely, Klingon warriors, a chance? How do you fancy your chances, Commander? Or
I think I could take. I think I could take one of them with one arm tied behind my back.
there's a lot of growling
Surely
at that.
Surely there is a true challenge between Starfleet and the between the Federation and the Klingon. The Klingons, we want to train the best of our best at any point.
She kind of looks down her nose at Andrews at this, and she kind of gestures to the two guys in the ring. One of them just kind of falls back, but the other one does take center stage. Well then, let's see how you fare against one of our junior officers. Don't worry, I'm sure he'll go easy on you. Emma! So, they all seem to be waiting. Right. So. It's a bit pointless, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, yeah. The combat round initiative is pretty much what you expected it to be, and
Yes,
where it should be.
if only I had decided to take the this security perk of which one is it? This martial artist and mean right hook. Just start bop. Oh, do vicious when you punch someone. Like, Jesus.
The Klingons all begin egging on their fellow in unison at this point. And he walks right up to Andrews.
Don't worry, female. I'll try not to rip that little fake arm of yours right off of your body and beat you with it. In fact, I'm not sure I want to take part in this fight at all. It would be terribly unfair and dishonorable to be seen fighting a cripple.
I see. I could be really, really douchey and call him a chicken, because that would just proper anger the Klingon. But this,
I'm waiting for you to go, how appropriate, you fight like a cow.
yeah.
How about
think
I
Andrews
close
would
my
just-
eyes and give you the first shot for free, human?
Are you really sure about that?
Come on, human. Show me
Okay.
your metal. And I don't just mean the implants in your head.
With that, can I headbutt him instead of punching?
Absolutely. But it's still going to be a daring plus security check.
Can I use advanced hand-to-hand combat as an additional
Absolutely
bonus?
doodly. So, a melee attack is a daring plus security with a difficulty of 1, opposed by the daring and security of the opponent. So... you can go foist 3 successes. Nice. This guy goes next. 2 successes. So what we get with that? Whoever wins the task, you are considered to have made the successful attack. So, yeah. So Andrews goes in, nuts the dude. He shakes it off and goes for Andrews, but of course Andrews just makes a slight movement of her head away from the guy's forehead ridges, and then she just clocks him with her fist. So, yeah. So, you had 5 successes, 2 were effects, so 1 armor and 1 of those, so you inflict 3 stress. Did you want to use the knockdown effect?
Yeah, 1 damage, 1 knockdown.
1 extra damage, 1 knockdown. Poof poof. So, rather than just the headbutt, what follows is a flurry of limbs as Andrews uses her knowledge of hand-to-hand combat to get into the Klingon male's soft spots, into his vulnerable angles, and they both exchange blows, but Andrews gets the upper hand and takes the guy down. At which point there's more than a few jeers from the Klingon crowd, and the ones that were many of the ones hurling insults at Andrews have stopped hurling insults, but they're still yelling at the idiot on the floor to get up. Which he does. Oops-a-daisy. I accidentally took him out of initiative rather than going for the prone. I deproned him and reproned him. Hey, up and down, up and down. He's trying to bob and weave.
He gets knocked down when he gets up again.
And then he gets knocked down again. So, yeah. Now the Klingon charges in with a couple of mean tight swings. Looks like he's going to try and get a hold of Andrews instead. So he is going to perform a daring plus security check. So now it's Andrews' turn to do the same.
Do I get to use my focus on that?
Absolutely. This is hand-to-hand combat. It applies. Three successes! So, yeah. Boop, boop. You get momentum on that. So, yeah, you get to roll damage again as you duck and as Andrews ducks under his wild swings, moves out of the way of his lunge, and basically comes in with... Wow.
Spear!
So,
RKO!
7 of those can be damaged, 1 can be knocked down.
Yep.
So you actually
The
inflict
Bravo
5.
bomb!
Where did she get a chair? The steel chair.
The steel chair from nowhere.
So it's more like take a few of these wild swings on your forearms as you're both deflecting and taking the blows to show that you can. Then when he makes an actual lunge, Andrews slips underneath, puts a couple of choice blows in his exposed rib cage, brings a knee up into his solar plexus, or where the Klingon solar plexus should be, and as he leans forward from the impact of the blow, she brings her elbow down onto his back to force him back down onto the ground. Kicks out his legs to make absolutely sure he goes down. Now there are a good number of Klingons actually starting to laugh.
Now, is there an opportunity to insinuate myself with the other Klingon, other people watching the fight, basically to be making the same laughter, be making the same cheers?
So yeah, the Klingon next to you is now joining in and is laughing and actually slaps you hard across the back of the shoulders as he's enjoying what he's seeing. It was a heavy thud. So you get the kind of impression that he was seeing if he could knock you down. It was enough to make you go oof, but you know it wasn't enough to knock the wind out of Natala. It was the Klingon equivalent of a friendly but light slap. So, here we go again. Andrews' turn to initiate the fisticuffs. He's on the floor.
Set fists to stun.
Set fists to stunning.
He gets 2 successes. So as Andrews comes in to try and take advantage of the fact that he's down, he manages to roll out of the way and regain his feet. And now he's warily kind of circling. And when he sees his moment, he tries to come in low for Andrews' legs. But gaining no successes whatsoever. So what does Andrews do? Does Andrews manage to take advantage of him leaving down his 4 successes? Hot diggity dang!
So what's Andrew's finishing move?
It's got to be the double hand strike, isn't it?
The steel arm slam.
Do damage. Roll your damage. Five successes, which means, and in effect, so 5 of those successes minus 2 for the resistance, and basically as the Klingon comes charging in and goes for Andrews' legs, she drops her weight and catches the Klingon around in a guillotine choke. Sweeps his legs out from underneath him and keeps the choke on until eventually he passes out. And he just drops unconscious.
Only he'd been careful.
So, yeah. At which point a big cheer goes up from the Klingons. And the lady walks forward and holds Andrews' hand up and gestures around to the other Klingons. See? See? This is what happens when you don't fight like a drunken tard. This is what happens when you exploit your enemies' openings and weaknesses. This is what fighting smart
looks like. This one you can learn from. Now, pick that up and get him to the sickbay. As for the rest of you, and she looks around at some of the others still milling around inside the arena, get back to your sparring. A human has just shown you how to be a warrior, so I expect you to do better.
She then kind of walks Andrews back towards Natala and Commander Linares Fox at this point.
Very impressive, Commander Andrews. I was expecting a display from you when I heard you were coming aboard. Nice to see that I was not ill-informed. That, of course, was one of my junior runt officers who needed to be taught a lesson. But obviously I needed to also to establish you in front of the rest of my Klingon brethren. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lady Jadark, and it is my unfortunate duty to try and craft these mewling children into actual Klingon warriors capable of fighting. Obviously, I have my work cut out for me.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Jalop, formally. I was wondering if potentially I could continue training here whilst we're on
will insist upon
continually.
it. Indeed.
If both parties can benefit each other in this, then we stand stronger together.
Absolutely. I do not doubt that there is something you can learn from us. But some of these, and again I use the term loosely, males, have an overinflated opinion of their ability to fight. Obviously, some of my fellow female officers are more than willing to try and show them the error of their ways. But if we have Starfleet also showing them how to fight, then I would consider it a valuable lesson learned. And if you do not show up for practice here in the fighting cages at least once a week, I will hunt you down and drag you from your quarters myself. Commander.
Seems fair. That
She
seems
looks
fair.
over at the EXO.
Commander, you are welcome to spectate as well if you wish. But some here might think more of you were you to engage us in cultural exchange. And as for you,
She looks over at Natala.
I have heard of this fencing thing that you do. I am intrigued. You may show it to me
Likewise,
one
I
day.
have only completed the most basic of Battleth holodeck programs, but I'm interested in gaining some practical experience.
Pah! Holodecks can only show you training simulations. I will show you how to wield it live. Unless, of course, you are unused to wielding edged weapons with the edge still sharp.
I am always willing to try new things, my lady.
Excellent. I will try to set up a schedule for you and your crewmates to have regular training opportunities here within the fighting pits. And if none of my brethren have already stated it, welcome to Narendra Station, Commanders, Lieutenant. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a lot of work to do.
So, there we go. Okay. So... what time is it? 15:15. Okay. Moving on. I'm gonna take us to. I'm just talking about sound, and I'm going to move us to Maxim's place as the general place to be seen. So yeah, eventually everyone can meet up back around the main social place, which of course is whoops-a-daisy, overshot there. The Maxim's place.
Good to know that Bertram knows where his place is.
Everyone who gets the stuff, who turns up late, just gets handed dishes with the worst of the stuff we've found so far.
The stuff that everyone else couldn't finish. Yeah. So at some point, sorry.
Yes, out of interest, how much of you three drank?
We tried Rexagino. I've had 3.
Dear God, Vibers, what have you done?
Is the seat underneath Nova just vibrating?
Yep.
I think the whole space station is vibrating. Like,
Well, not a single Ractigino wasn't mixed with something else.
oh, dear.
Looking over your rejected plates, you all must have very bland palates. And just start dragging the bowls towards Natala.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
To be fair, the
Yep.
food wasn't the primary focus.
Well, we know what
The
your
canal's
primary
not
focus
bad.
is.
Indeedly do.
I didn't
So-
see his new lady friend yet.
No, you haven't, but you will do. So yeah.
I just realised who's on the table next to us. This dude,
Not him.
Harry
That's true.
Davis. Harry.
See, I was just thinking on the table below you, one of those Klingons looks like the one you beat the shit out of.
It's almost like I'm saving myself some work by using the same token images. Don't
No,
judge me.
I think
No.
Andrews has got. I think it's the same person. He's stalking you now because he knows he can't beat you in one-on-one combat.
Just don't judge me, alright? The F you. Get over here! So yeah, as far as the trio that were having 2 lots of Andorian brandy are at least buzzing to the point of starting to slur their speech, but not so bad that you're, about to pass out. And yeah, you've got enough time to mostly sober up before 1700 hours comes along and you are asked to attend the captain's banquet.
Oh god.
Yeah. So Commander Linares lets you in. Both Keval and Commander Linares can tell you that it's kind of a Ducasse family tradition, because the Ducasse family have been in Starfleet for a good couple of generations. They developed this habit of kind of a getting to know you dinner whenever they're posted to a new place with other starship captains. So it tends to be a big thing. The captain makes dinner for everybody and tends to invite the senior staff of all the serving starships at the same posting. And so
I'll let everybody in on the which is the best dishes.
well, being kind of in case the accent didn't give it away, she's kind of like French Creole kind of lineage, so she does have enough kind of spicy Creole dishes that she adds, but she knows enough to offer stuff to other people as well. Those with stronger palates, like denobulins, those with less strong palates, like maybe the what's that species name again? The benzites, who like their fish a bit more. Send it back.
And then I might be able to get another medal out of this.
Send it back. No, I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to nurture it and call it Fred.
I'm going to raise it till it becomes sentient and aware, and then I'm going to introduce it to Andrews.
Why are you always picking on me? What is your fascination?
Because you react to it. I tried picking on. So I tried picking on the Keval, and he just blanked me. I tried picking on Vibers. He just went and started stroking his warp core. I tried picking on Natala, and Natala just sort of like went into some sort of meditative trance. I tried picking on Nova, but she's so damn fast I could never nail her down long enough to complete a sentence.
Commander, can I file a formal complaint of harassment? The fact that I'm probably the only one of the crew that has to have regular appointments with Doctor.
Well,
If you didn't keep on breaking your the links between your cybernetics and your biological nervous system while hunching people attacking you rather than using the phases you're assigned, maybe you wouldn't be in sickbay so much.
Doc's got a point, Commander. I'm afraid since the Doctor can override me on medical grounds.
Maybe I could take a look at it.
Could I be involved in the checks on a ethics grounds? I've been told I need to work on my ethics training.
Oh God! Not you as well.
Jan, were you
I
about
was
to
gonna
say
keep
something?
the doctor in check.
Yes. So, Commander, Lieutenant Commander, we've been talking to a fellow here called Rainer, the Orion at the bar, who claims to have some knowledge of how to navigate through the expanse, and he's willing to share knowledge if we are willing to share knowledge.
I see. Could be useful. I'll have to vet it with the captain, of course, but if this guy has got decent credentials, we could certainly...
Well, I think his credentials are very questionable.
Oh, really? All
Yes, he seems to be shy of the security.
Right. Have you met the security heads yet of the station? They're an experience, I'll give them that. Pack-led Starfleet security chief and a Klingon co-security chief. They're an interesting pair, but watch out for the Pack-led. She's sharp. Lieutenant Commander Sardavelli, if you're interested, and her Klingon counterparts. Lieutenant Olak, I think. Pretty sure it's Olak. I could be wrong, of course. And guys, you ought to have seen the show that Andrews put on in the fighting pit. Whew. That was impressive. Knocked the guy on his
Idon survived.
Wasn't really
Is that a bit of...
I think it was
Is that a bit
possibly
of
some
hydraulic
politics.
fluid?
Is that hydraulic fluid leaking out of your elbow there?
Yes.
And I get the feeling that we got ourselves caught up in a little bit of Klingon politics by going down there at the time we did.
Well, Lady Jadarko, if I'm pronouncing that right, seemed rather amiable for a Klingon. Although I'm not looking forward to my training sessions down there.
I personally feel that something is amiss here. The fact that we are being called here, and as you said there, the Klingons seem active on their training regimen.
Well, what do you expect, Commander? They're Klingons. They have martial pride.
There's active, and then there's pushing.
I think the difference might be who was assigned to it. I think, from the sounds of it, this is a new assignment for her as well, given her opinion of the people she's having to train.
Good point.
I think this might be part of the same escalation as our assignment here.
Well, says Commander Linares, There were rumors that I caught wind of, suggesting that one of the reasons Starfleet wants to post us out here is to do with the Borg. After Wolf 359, they wonder if the Borg used somewhere like the Shackleton Expanse to sneak through, which is how they were able to sneak into the Alpha Quadrant so quickly. So, it's possible they might have stationed us out here as a early warning, first line of defense kind of job. But I suppose we'll find out once we start getting our marching orders.
What's
Speaking of
the
which,
deal, What's the deal, Commander, with Captain Lockwood?
Captain Blackford.
Blackford, sorry.
I hear things about him, certainly. Graduated top of his class, held one of the highest entry scores of most anyone for the Starfleet Academy entrance exams. First of his family to actually manage to make it into Starfleet. One of the more decorated officers. Just has a... what's the word I'm looking for? Has a tendency to rub people up the wrong way. Has got all the personality of sandpaper. But can't fault the guy's record. As far as our captain goes, I know that she and Captain Blackford attended Starfleet Academy together. I think they were... Scuttlebutt says they were neck and neck quite a few times, but eventually Blackford overtook Ducasse in scores on the various examinations on the various subjects. Everyone expected our captain to be the one to qualify for first place, but that went to Blackford, and with good reason.
If anything, it is evidence of a strong climate of meritocracy in the current promotion and assignment system. Given, even 20 years ago, someone who rubbed someone up the wrong way as often as he does would not have had the assignments that he has had.
Maybe he's just that good. And in case you haven't noticed, we've been short quite a few ships ever since Wolf 359. And captains to go with them. Between us, the amount of younger captains that are now getting given their positions, that's been going up. Starfleet's keen to get as many ships out there as possible, so as a result they're fast-tracking a lot of guys.
But quantity doesn't always mean quality.
I agree. Blackford, however, the guy's got a spotless record. The guy has got achievements coming out of his eyebrows. You can't fault the man for his record so far. He's the hero of at least 2 engagements, one with the Cardassians, the other with the Breen. He's just a guy who knows exactly how good he is.
But is he a people person?
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
He doesn't need to be if he can imply people.
Well, exactly.
But in this station where we have
Thank you, Nova.
the station where we have the delicate balance between Federation and Klingons, could he not be a wrecking ball?
Potentially, but that assumes he actually takes the time to talk to anybody else. And goddamn, that sounded...
His own tendency to isolate himself may be to our benefit in that regard.
Maybe that's why we were chosen for the mission of him.
Maybe. I guess we'll find out.
Or perhaps there are as many missions as there are ships. We cannot make such assumptions.
Let me make one thing absolutely clear, guys. As your XO, regardless of what any of us may think of Blackfoot, he is still a Starfleet captain, decorated. So he still deserves respect. I may not agree with his methods, but the guy gets results. And when they paired their his first officer with him, well, the efficiency went through the roof. The guy's an ass, though. No two ways about it. But just don't let the captain hear you talking about another Starfleet captain that way. Deal?
Of course. It's,
Let's drink on it.
Yes, we're off record at this moment in time, are we not?
Absolutely.
Do we know anything about his first officer, Commander is it
No, course.
Let me find him. What was his name again? Tonak. Commander Tonak.
Does he normally get served with water?
Very droll. Commander Tonak, I hate to stereotype here, but typical Vulcan. Academically accomplished, very strong in the sciences, very economical with his use of manpower, which I suppose is why he and Blackfoot get on so well. Blackfoot wanted one of the best first officers he could get. Tanak was the one who got the job.
And given the ship that they've been assigned, which is essentially a streamlined version of the Galaxy,
one imagines that those extra ways around the Shackleton Expanse that your friend over there was offering might be useful, especially to the Bellerophon. But maybe I will tell the captain about it first before, so it sounds like it's coming from us. Sounds like our captain's the one with the information. He's the one who has to bargain. Not that
I don't know if Rainer would be as amenable to speaking to Blackfoot.
I'm not saying Blackfoot talks to. I'm not saying that this Rainer talks to Blackfoot. I'm saying that maybe secrets that this Rainer brings out ends up coming from us. So it seems like that we've been the one to uncover these extra ways. Who knows? Might get under Blackfoot's skin a bit. Speaking of, we've got not long to get ready for the banquet, so gird your loins, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, he's a Starfleet captain. Be polite. So, with that...
I'm off to go find an oxy pill.
You guys basically go back to your new quarters and have to find your dress uniforms in order to get ready for the captain's banquet. I'll gloss over it for the most part, since what was going to be discussed about Captain Blackfoot that I was going to make evident about him has already been discussed by you guys outside of it. So you actually get to experience Captain Blackfoot's self-aggrandizing arrogance firsthand. And, you know, the Captain Corbett, at least, of the Venture, is a very friendly chap. He's obviously had some years in Starfleet, so he's quite the veteran. been around quite a bit, and has got a couple of stories to tell. But whenever he brings up one of his old war stories, Captain Blackford, or by proxy, Commander Tonak, are quick to put in a comment here and there about it. And whenever there's a lull in conversation, Captain Blackford always seems to use the opportunity to give a less than subtle snipe to Captain Ducasse about how much better he's doing. In fact, he does Captain Blackford does make reference early on that originally the USS Thunderchild, also an Akira class, was going to get posted here, but apparently the Thunderchild was then given better duties to help out near Deep Space Nine. So Captain Blackford makes the show of how does it feel to be the second choice, out loud to everybody at the table, to Captain Ducasse. Of course, Keval is able to bring his +1, and she makes sure to not wear dress uniform, but to wear an actual dress to show off how stunning she really is. So thankfully, there is good conversation and distraction to be had, as the captains are all off at one end of the table, and just like Captain Blackford said, it's just him and his first officer, but Captain Corbett has actually brought his senior bridge officers from the Venture too, so everybody actually does get to have some nice banter with another ship's crew.
Perhaps we can suggest we do a training exercise between the two ships. See which which crew is the more capable. Perhaps that might not be a subtle way to knock Blackford a couple of pegs down.
So just the Venture and the Navis go on
Yes.
maneuvers.
No, on a one-on-one training scenario. You know, where you put all the weapons to 10% power, etc.
You want to go versus the Bellerophon, rather?
Yeah, sorry, the Bellerophon. I keep
We put
really
the bridge
struggling
in
with.
simulator mode. It's fine.
Yeah.
Actual control of the ship from a compad sitting in the conference chamber.
If Andrews does Andrews actually bring that up at the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. The fact that Andrews, brings it up, Captain Blackford just acts as if he didn't hear you. But when Commander Linares pipes up and goes, that could be actually quite useful for us each of the three ships to maybe test each other on a regular basis, see if we're all up to speed with Starfleet combat protocols and maneuvers and whatnot. And Captain Corbett's like, that's a good idea, keep everybody sharp. And Captain Blackford is like, I'm sure the Bellerophon has got better things to be doing, what with us being the flagship of the 20th Fleet and everything.
Subtly can kind of like just encourage the commander to keep the conversation running throughout the night to also get Ducasse kind of aware of the situation.
She sits herself at the head of the
they
table.
also like raised eyebrows to see whether whether that flagship status has actually been confirmed by anyone. Like, has anyone ever mentioned it? Yes.
Yeah. So Commander Rozek, the Venture's #1. When Natala, gives the oh really, is it the flagship kind of look over towards Razek. Razek just kind of gently puts his finger to his mouth and just gently moves his head from side to side in a very small no motion, but it's small enough that you can see it, but it's not so fast that it would catch someone's peripheral vision.
I like Rozek.
It's a good job they are the flagship for this one. Can you just imagine how frustrating it must be to have an admiral on your bridge contradicting everything you say? This is talking to other engineers slightly too loudly.
Yeah, well, in that regard, the God damn, I've forgotten the name of the ship already. Venture.
Venture?
The Venture's chief engineer goes, yeah, well, according to what we know, the Admiral is pretty much going to stay on the Starbase for the entire run. It would take... I don't think she's actually set to fly her flag on any. Her job is here as co-head of the whole operation. So we hear. So, are there any other points of conversation that you guys want to bring up during the course of this?
I do want to,
Hang on.
seeing as...
Yeah, go on.
So, I do want to bring up a point that perhaps we should conduct some combined exercises, but seeing as the flagship is so busy with other things, that would probably just be between us and the Venture.
So is Keval actually saying that out loud again?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, you know, you get lots of affirmations from the Venture lot. You know, they seem quite keen, especially because you get the impression a good many of the guys on the Venture are all old hands. So not all of them have actually seen an Akira class in action. They're aware of the specs and whatnot, but and you know, as soon as you guys mention, well, you know, she's a prototype. Well, wow, you know, especially the engineer and the science officer of the Venture, they start bombarding you guys with questions, and the Helm officer too, for that matter, is like, well, you know, the Helm officer flies a Galaxy class ship. You know, those things take forever and a day to move.
Nova would literally answer any question as precisely as possible.
She takes out her handwritten notes and says, "These are the exact schematics for the ship. These are its tactical weak points."
Unfortunately, she's also still rocking the Rectogena, and it will come out at speed.
Well, yeah, Nova being the operations officer, her job, of course, is power regulation to different systems and whatnot. So, yeah, being on as many Rectogenos as she is, she then goes into this big old thing about, you know, the fact that it generates so much power that you've got excess energy that's having to be bled off every now and again, because, you know, departments are always coming in at her for power, but there's so much power that she can just shunt power around as everybody needs. And you know, the operations officer of the Venture is like, wow, you don't have to take some from one and give it to the other and apologize to the guy you have to ration the power for. That's amazing. I wish I had that job.
The Navis is so overpowered that when our holodeck malfunctions and creates something that tries taking over ship and killing the crew, we just overpower him by shunting excess power into the holodeck and fusing him to pieces.
Give it a migraine until it goes away.
Bertram, that's not actually the procedure we put in place. What we do is we power up holodeck number 2 and point that at it, and number 3. So we just go, there's 2 on our side, 1 on theirs, and they fight it out within 5 minutes. We accelerate the time for them a little bit as well.
Yeah, but basically, you know, only having one holodeck-related disaster at a time is so 10 years ago.
I do ask the chief engineer if he's willing to compare notes on drills while we're here, and supervise ours, and I'll supervise his. So then we've got.
He seems up for
So
that.
we get
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we get to see what the other crews are doing and take notes.
That's an excellent idea. I'll schedule that in, Captain. You know, the Captain Corbett looks like he wants to be anywhere but where he is, listening to Blackford talk. So he looks enthusiastically down the table, down your end of the table. At which point, you know, you make mention loud of that, and he's like, yeah, it's a great idea. We'll schedule that in.
It will be recommended that, yeah, I think all departments share notes, etc., to try and improve both ships' combat effectiveness.
As soon as you mention that, Commander Tanak goes, the Bellerophon is operating at more than optimal efficiency thanks to the captain and myself. To suggest it requires any more optimization would be vastly illogical.
But is it 110%?
That
How
is
many
the
chairs are there on deck?
The
7?
idea of
Yeah,
110%
Commander
to a
Vibers, I'm
Vulcan
pretty
first
sure, could
officer.
offer. Commander Vibers could definitely offer some improvements to ship engine output. Although the Navis is not as luxurious as a galaxy, it is built to pack a punch.
bearing in mind Commander Tannock, who made that offhand comment, is the Bellerophons.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah, so that's not the galaxy. That's the.
Oh, that's the. I always get. This is so annoying. Right, so the Bellerophon is the Intrepid. Okay,
Yes.
I've got this right. Okay.
So yes, the captain with the biggest ego does not actually have the biggest ship.
The biggest ship. Okay, guys.
It's just the
He has
newest
the
ship.
smallest ship, but the newest ship. Yes.
How many chairs are there on deck 7? I think that can be improved.
126. They are at optimal efficiency.
Ooh.
They are spaced evenly and accommodate for the exact number of crew.
I think I found my new friend. He's gonna get endless questions about Nate's on his ship.
And of course, as a Vulcan officer, he will give you exact numbers back.
Exactly.
And he's got the patience to sit and deal with
yeah,
this for 6
can we-
hours straight.
Can we see? Oh, Dr. Moss. Can we get Dr. Moss and Nova just talking to the commanding officer, just subtly, just the Moss facts on the constant questions, just to see how
Just
far.
in shifts.
Yeah.
So
12 hours on,
eventually,
12 hours off. Of
If he
no
wants to hear about the energy moss sort of like working in power systems in potential in the same way that organic circuitry is used in the bio-neural gel packs in the most recently designed starships, he can.
So in that regard, what happens is eventually the food and the conversation around the table stops, and the
Because everyone's just like,
the
oh,
well,
doctor
no,
under the
that
table.
hasn't happened yet. So as soon as the table is cleared away, of course, everyone then starts milling and just having conversations. The captain's, off to one side, and then the crew's both kind of pocketing off. But of course, Commander Tannock staying with his captain, and Captain Blackford staying away from everybody else, just trying to lord it over Captain Ducasse and Captain Corbett, whereas the rest are all kind of milling. So eventually, Nova could get it in her head to just hook her armor through Bertram's and lead him up towards where the captains are talking. And Bertram can then launch into his diatribe, whilst Nova is launching into hers. Meanwhile, everybody else who's very much in the know as to what's actually going on are just there trying to make it look as if they're not actually paying attention, whilst subtly paying attention. They're trying to chart the course of who snaps first.
10 on the Vulcan.
10 what, Vibers?
Nothing, sir.
I was going to say, if we're betting for Latinum, then I'd take
So
that bet.
it'd be more than likely going betting by the bottle at this stage. I think the only currency we've found so far is entire bottles of Andorian ale, Andorian brandy.
Which we're getting on Starfleet. I get paid somehow magic credits.
We don't get paid.
Resource-based economy,
I
dear
get
boy.
to wave a com badge at a bartender and they get paid.
Yeah.
As far as I imagine it and understand it, it's some kind of resource-based economy because it's post-scarcity, what with replicators and whatnot. But you still have to manage the fact that.
It's to an extent. It's space socialism. It's space socialism, not communism.
Yeah, because if you're able to replicate anything, but the replication needs to come from something, so you have to create the gel, you know, the neutral gel that comes out on. So there's still resources to be managed, which is why I think it could be considered more of a resource-based economy. But anyway, to say that this session did not go quite as I thought it would, but better at the same time, would be a great understatement. So, yeah, anything you guys want to do, want to say, want to get done whilst
I think
banquet's
over the
going to-
various downtimes in between missions, I think it would be good to establish where we're making friends generally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the crew quarters level can accommodate huge amounts of people currently, and the levels for the can't speak. The crew quarters level is actually on multiple levels. It's like 2, I think. So you've not only got living quarters, you've also got hollow suites and a couple of eateries and other franchise type places scattered around the place. So the living area is not necessarily just a living area, it can also accommodate recreation. Not as lively recreation and differing recreation and food and whatnot as were you to go to the Galleria levels. But nonetheless, you know, if you fancy just a quick night out, then you just go down a couple of corridors to some of the eateries on the residential level. This, of course, begs the question of what Natala's going to do with her rather extensive family, because if you're going to put in for any of Natala's family to actually be living on the station, then you're going to need to decide which ones and how much room you're going to need.
Because there are about 17 of them.
Yes.
So,
so, you know, a good couple of cabin suites could be taken up with just Natala's family.
Yeah.
So those are all things that can be established later on.
Do the people who aren't intended to be in family events and stuff like that, do they get their own rooms, or do they have to bunk with people?
They don't necessarily have to bunk, especially if they're senior officers.
So all you're saying is, I can live frugally and dedicate most of my living space to research.
Yeah. So obviously,
and yes, all of you are welcome at the Natala village at any point.
the commune.
Natala village.
So yeah, obviously the more senior you are, the more space you've got in your quarters, but coincidentally, the more senior officer you are, the higher you are up the levels, which means you've got less far to go to report to the Admiral when she requests your attendance. So, so there's a benefit to being a senior officer, but there's also a drawback. You've got no excuse to be late to briefings because you're one of the, you know, you're like one level away from the briefing auditorium. So,
given how good the interactions have been so far, I think I want to encourage the friendship between Natala and the Benzite First Officer of the Venture, because they seem to be on the same wavelength.
Okay, yeah. Who was he again? That
And,
was
yeah.
Rozek. Cool.
Beyond that, I'm generally spending a decent amount of time trying to figure out the Klingons a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, so, well, over time you'll see that the Klingons are Klingons. They have, you know, they've been posted here. They've been posted here just like you guys are. It's just at the moment there are more Starfleet ships here and there are no Klingon ships here, but there are plenty of Klingon personnel. In fact, not just the Klingon-only training level, but the vast majority of the station engineers are Klingons, especially in the lower ends of the ship where you've got the main reactors. It's mostly the Klingons that are in charge of that stuff. And And at the very top, the ventral side of the dorsal side of the station, with all the diplomatic suites and the science stuff, is mostly the Starfleet people, as you might imagine. But the two co-heads of the station do have linked offices on the same level. But you have to make, as the lovely Lieutenant Jeressa can tell you, you do have to make appointments to see either the Admiral or the General.
I think Nova would want to start learning Klingon so she could endlessly question about the workings of this station.
Well, to Nova's curiosity, it is a fascinating place, because on the outside, it is styled very much like your standard Federation starbase, but the interior is so much different.
And if it's mostly handled by Klingon, she'd want to question them in their own language.
So yeah, there you go. Reason to start learning Klingon.
Yeah.
Wa cha wedge. Wa
Here's your gat.
cha wed. Why does every other
Beesh.
word have an exclamation mark?
I think that'd help.
Wait. So why does that one have a small d at the start, but that one has a big B in the middle? Do I emphasize the B?
Do I yell? I like yelling.
Anyway. Yeah.
They've got 300 words in this lexicon, and they all translate as honour.
There are so many different derivations of the word honour that...
Yeah.
I really like the word beige, actually. The idea of beige is quite interesting.
Punishment.
To be honest, mostly can I take this apart without you hurting me?
What about this? So basically, the Nova's going to be finding out what the Klingon is for... What's that?
Yep.
What's that? What's that?
This do?
What's that
That's
do?
a very important phrase. I'm just going to look up for you so you can learn it. The phrase translates as, "Oh, help me, if you ask that one more time, I will send you to Stovercore." Right, if they say this, run.
So yeah.
Constantly sent before the general. You did it again.
So yeah, you guys now have your own home. Home away from home. So, yeah. So yeah, Bertram can absolutely move in and do his own little botany experiments inside his room. Yep, Andrews gets to have regular training sessions with the Klingons. I don't know, Vibers can make sure, keeps finding excuses to go down to the dock area to make sure that the dock workers know not to touch his engines.
Damn it.
They know he's watching, always watching.
That's what happened to the night shift. One of them touched the engines, left a fingerprint there, and Vibers found them.
They were never seen.
No comment.
Actually, no. They're found to be walking around every now and again with a haunted look on their face. No one knows why.
The fusion reactor just doesn't sound right. I need the hum of the antimatter and warp reactors. Just helps you go back to sleep with everything fine.
So, quickly, before we end this, we're going to take a quick diversion back to the auditorium for the next morning at 07:30, when you are asked by the Admiral to attend a quick briefing. It's just yourselves that are there. And, yeah, some of you trying to mask that you're a little worse for wear from the after-party aftermath. And the sheer amount of some of you haven't slept because of the sheer amount of Raktaginos that you had. But, yeah, Admiral Hebert welcomes you down. Okay. Here's the deal. The Takarans have been petitioning the Federation for membership for a time, and now it seems they're looking to bribe their way in by impressing us. The Takarans have apparently been working on a new prototype quantum torpedo. Now, I know that your ship is also a prototype ship, and is one of the reasons why I wanted you posted here to Narendra Station. Your status as a prototype ship means that you are used to dealing with prototype technology. As such, I view you as the more experienced and therefore more logical choice to conduct this mission. Your orders are to proceed to Takara Prime in order to make contact with the lead of their quantum torpedo prototype, a Dr. Jibran. Apparently, the prototype torpedo has now qualified for the testing stage. So you will meet with Dr. Jibran, you will collect the first working prototype of the quantum torpedo, and you will help him test it. You will be also there to witness the events and catalogue the data. Any questions?
May I request we have a copy of the schematics of the said quantum torpedo before we undertake this assignment?
The Takarans are a bit of a paranoid lot. They're used to playing things close to their chests. So unfortunately, they're refusing to release the data. But from what they're refusing to release the schematics, but the data that they've sent us so far, the data models look promising. So Starfleet has requested that we send someone to help them test the first live fire of this new quantum torpedo. That's going to be you guys. They'll be expecting you. You'll first beam down and make contact with Dr. Jibran in his lab. You can talk it out with him there. You will then help him escort his working prototype to a test firing location, whereupon you will collect data. Everyone clear? Well then, that's your first mission. You are dismissed. And with that, we will end our little show and our little episode here. So most of that, as we can tell, was given over to Welcome to Narendra Station. So the actual mission itself will start in earnest next week. So, as far as those who are currently watching the stream, I thank you very much for tuning in. And yeah, this was fun. This is a fun little episode to get in to show the nice and social side of things. And yeah, we're making friends in Narendra Station, so hopefully we'll see a couple more recurring characters and some recurring relationships occur.
And there's a pub.
And there's a pub. There are many, but there's a primary pub. So yes, thank you for watching, guys, and tune in next week to find out what happens with this new prototype quantum torpedo. Live long and prosper.